Jihan's achievement of 10 kills at the Colosseum was a big deal, the first of its kind since the Sword King. News of this spread fast through different chat groups and social media platforms. Thanks to this, his stream gained 10,000 subscribers and peaked at over 4,000 live viewers. Surprisingly, the Sword King fan club, who originally wanted Jihan to fail, ended up inadvertently helping him instead. All their anger was now directed towards the Golden Streamer. The Golden Streamer felt annoyed reading the news, but also started to become interested in and even a fan of Jihan. He dreamed of becoming Jihan's editor and turning him into the best in BattleTube star. At the Sword King Palace that night, Saia was amazed by her uncle Jihan's livestream performance and his newfound strength. Everyone wanted to donate to Jihan, but he hadn't set up a donation line yet. Saia suggested setting a minimum donation amount to avoid constant distractions during the game. Jihan agreed and set it to 10,000 GP. However, he was more focused on the epic quest to find the Shadow Queen. Finding the Shadow Queen seemed impossible among the crowded spectators. Saia noticed Jihan's expression and offered to help him. She wanted to know who the Shadow Queen was too, as nobody knew about her yet. Jihan agreed, and his nephew began combing through replays slowly to find her. Jihan was happy with the plan and retreated to his room to contemplate. In his window, he had 2 slots, one for the supporter class and another empty one awaiting something new. Jihan decided to use all his hard-earned achievement points to purchase an extra class slot. With this, he could add a new class to his character. After considering his options, he chose to become a mage. Completing the class change filled Jihan with a new kind of power, different from the divine power he was used to. He could feel the flow of this new energy in his heart. The reason he chose mage after being a supporter was because of a unique stat he could only obtain by having both classes, force, an incredibly powerful ability. In his past life, Jihan often sat with his master, Baron, listening to his drunken ramblings. One day, Baron talked about force, a stat that combined magic and divine power perfectly. It was a gift only he possessed because he had 2 classes. Jihan learned that to achieve it, divine power needed to be at least level 10. Even though Jihan knew the secret, he never thought he could use it until now. With 2 classes and his divine power, he finally had the chance to try it himself. It was a power he needed to prepare for what lay ahead. However, when Jihan attempted to use force, he did it wrong and crashed into a door. He realized he needed to raise his magic power first. After draining most of his magic power from a failed attempt, Jihan tried a different approach. He contained the power within his body and fused his divine and magic powers together, guiding them to the lower elixir field using martial power. It was a painful process, but Jihan managed to achieve it, causing an explosion of force. A window message appeared, indicating that he was attempting to integrate the 3 elixir fields, but also warning him that he was pushing his limits dangerously far. In another room, Saia heard the commotion and screamed, sensing something was wrong with Jihan. Jihan was trying to mix 3 special energies inside him to make something super strong called force. He really wanted this force thing, so he tried mixing divine power, magic, and martial power together, even though it was really hard. But to mix them right, he needed to be really good at controlling all 3 powers. He also needed to be super strong in all sorts of abilities, like having at least 100 points in each. If someone who wasn't strong enough tried this, they could even die. Jihan was struggling a lot with this mixing. It was making him feel really bad. His niece, Sia, heard him yelling from his room. She got really scared and ran to see what was wrong. When she saw him, she was shocked. Jihan told her he was just having a really bad headache, which made him yell. Sia was really worried because Jihan was the only family she had left. She started crying because she was scared something bad might happen to him. Jihan realized he needed to think about how Sia felt. He told her he was okay and apologized for scaring her. Seia stopped crying and felt better knowing JiHan was okay. She left to go find something else to do, feeling relieved. JiHan decided he needed to be strong for her and not show his weak side again. Then, a message popped up saying the mixing of the three energies had failed. But JiHan wasn't too upset because he still got some of the power he wanted, called force. The message also said that his divine and magic powers had combined into this new power. Even though he couldn't mix all three energies, he was still happy he got something out of it. In his stats, this new force power started at 12 because it shared points with his martial power. This meant if he got stronger in one area, his force would get stronger too. JiHan thought this was pretty cool and powerful. He wondered how strong he could become if he managed to mix all three energies. The next morning, JiHan slept with some special items that made his divine power stronger, raising it to 10. From now on, he could only get more divine power from items that were really good, like C rank or better. JiHan realized the items he had were only D and E rank, so they weren't useful anymore. He decided to sell them in the second-hand market. He went to wake up his nephew, Seia, but she had been working all night, searching for the Shadow Queen. JiHan warned her that staying up all night wasn't good for her health, but she was so focused on her search that she didn't notice it was morning. Seia showed JiHan what she found. Game replays where elves were acting as the queen and watching the game. They both thought maybe the term Shadow Queen could refer to dark elves. Seia planned to look for more information by searching for videos from overseas the next day. JiHan praised her professionalism and offered to help edit the videos. JiHan was surprised that Seia knew how to edit videos. He remembered that she used to make videos of her dad as a hobby before he left the family for Japan. This made JiHan angry, and he looked at a family photo sadly. 2 days ago, Mr. Park had talked to JiHan and Seia about the Sword King's girlfriend. Seia wondered who she was, and Mr. Park told them her name was Ito Shizuru, and she had an SSS rank power called Beauty. JiHan and Seia were shocked. JiHan asked if the Sword King might have been attracted to her because of her power. Mr. Park said that's what the administration office believed and warned JiHan to be careful too. Beauty was said to be even stronger than mind control and could even remodel the mind. There were cases of powerful people from Korea suddenly moving to Japan, possibly because of her power. JiHan tried to find information about Beauty and Ito Shizuru, but couldn't find anything. He realized Japan was probably keeping any info about her secret. He remembered Mr. Park's warning to be careful about Beauty, as powerful individuals from Korea might be targeted. Suddenly, a Japanese Inyo self-defense force plane was coming to Korea, which made JiHan even more cautious. Seia and JiHan were all set for the conference. JiHan noticed Seia was a bit shaky, probably because it was her first public appearance since her dad's work. He reassured her, reminding her how confident she was in the last broadcast and that they hadn't done anything wrong, so there was no need to act otherwise. Seia agreed and smiled. As they entered the lobby, they saw that most of the people were already there, eager to hear what they had to say. Mr. Park was getting everything ready as JiHan had requested. JiHan had asked for an auction of the Sword King's collection, aiming to attract the attention of the Inyo self-defense force from Japan. Mr. Park was surprised by this plan, but impressed by JiHan's foresight. JiHan explained that the items selected for the auction, like the Sword King's battle connector with stored battle data, would surely catch Japan's interest, possibly even prompting them to come themselves. He believed this auction was the last chance to change public opinion. He asked Mr. Park to keep an eye on the Inyo self-defense force. Just then, Thea's relatives showed up, wanting to enter the room. However, they weren't allowed in. Seia asked them why they were there, and they blamed her and JiHan for selling off items at auction. Seia stood her ground, pointing out that her aunt and uncle had used her dad's name for scams before being chased out. She questioned if they thought so little of her, and if they were only after her dad's fortune. Her relatives were furious at her truthfulness. Seia made it clear that the wealth her dad, the Sword King, left behind belonged solely to her, and her relatives had no right to argue otherwise. She asked Mr. Park to escort them out, as they weren't family. Jihan praised Seia for being pretty cool, and together they entered the conference room. The photographers were surprised to see Jihan and snapped pictures as they entered. People bombarded Jihan with questions about the purpose of the auction and why overseas groups were allowed to participate. Seia felt uncomfortable with the constant flash of the cameras. They faced attack questions about the Sword King's property being the source of money and why they were giving it up. Jihan had enough. He used his force power to destroy all the cameras and declared that this was an auction event, not an interview. He asked for some silence before starting the auction. There were 3 items up for auction. First was the Sword King's BattleNet connector, which reduced pain by 99% and contained valuable stored data. This included analysis of the Sword King himself and other top players in Korea and East Asia, which was especially important with the Korea-Japan match approaching. A representative from the Inyo Japan Self-Defense Force, Takeda Kazuo, raised his hand to make the first bid. He offered 5 billion yen for all the items and requested a private meeting with Seia. Jihan saw through Takeda Kazuo's intentions and refused the private meeting, stating that there were no private meetings here. Takeda Kazuo's bodyguard, Shadow, intervened, showing she was a formidable player, though not on the level of the Sword King. Jihan, angered by their persistence, prepared to use his power, his eyes gleaming with determination. In an instant, everything changed. The bodyguard swiftly drew her sword on Jihan. Pressing her blade against Jihan's neck, she caught his eye and subdued him. Furious, she attempted to retract her sword, but Jihan cautioned her to halt. He pointed out that the auction was being broadcast worldwide on my BattleNet stream. In the live stream, many viewers watched and commented in real time. Then, Takeda, a member from Japan, apologized, expressing regret for the incident and offering 35 million along with a private meeting. He sought an answer from Ms. Seia. This surprised Seia. As the daughter and heir, Takeda wanted her response. Approaching Seia, Takeda asked about her father's actions, offering to provide the answers she sought. Seia declined the private meeting, leaving Takeda disheartened. He questioned whether she would forfeit $50 million because of the private meeting. Seia explained that her uncle, Jihan, deemed Takeda's proposal too suspicious, so she followed his guidance. Additionally, since she was underage, her uncle was her guardian, and she would act according to his decisions. Even though Jihan and Seia turned down the private meeting, the Inyo Self-Defense Force might try offering money again. They still planned to buy it for 50 million. Jihan suspected something fishy. Inyo seemed to be under orders to pay 50 million by someone called the Sword King. He handed the letter from the Sword King to Seia. It was strange how easily Takeda from Inyo got hold of the Sword King's stuff, especially since Korean companies couldn't afford it. This Takeda guy was banned from entering the US because of his personality and his association with the Inyo Self-Defense Force. He managed to recruit players from other countries so easily that people called him the Japanese Calamity. Jihan and Takeda made a deal for the auction. Then, Seia opened up about the letter from the Sword King. In the letter, the Sword King said she should donate the Sword Palace. But Seia realized that was a terrible idea because it was the last inheritance from her father. He hoped she'd use it wisely, and that was the end of their relationship. Seia cried as she read the letter. It was definitely her dad's handwriting. Jihan felt both sad and angry. He thought about the power of the beauty spell, which could control minds. It was super powerful and dangerous. Once, The Sword King had been a good dad to Seiya, but now their relationship was over. Seiya told Takada she was ready to cut ties with her father. Jihan destroyed the letter from Seiya with his magic fire. Everyone was stunned by Jihan's magic and power. They knew him as a support player, but he also had warrior skills, divine power, and now magic. It was a shock. Takada really wanted Jihan to join the Inyo self-defense force. Everyone wanted Jihan to join their guild and made offers. But Jihan turned them all down. He said it wasn't the right time to think about that. Suddenly, Jihan's nephew collapsed. Jihan was shocked and shouted her name. Jihan quickly scooped up his niece from the ground, gently waking her from her dizziness. Concerned, Jihan asked if she was okay as Seiya slowly opened her eyes. In a hushed voice, Seiya explained to Jihan that she was pretending to faint because of the trouble with the guild members' proposals. Everyone was pressuring Jihan to join their guilds, so she wanted to help him out by creating a distraction. Jihan was taken aback by her revelation, so winked, showing that she had taken matters into her own hands. The guards shielded Jihan and Seiya from the crowd. With Seiya now feeling better, Jihan apologized to everyone and decided to end the event, citing Seiya's need for rest. Helping her to her feet, Jihan escorted Seiya out of the room. As they left, Takada from Japan approached, apologizing for the disturbance and expressing his desire to formally invite Jihan to his guild. He offered his contact information on a business card. Jihan, furious, used his powers to burn the business card as his response. In the live chat, viewers celebrated as the fourth-ranked guild in the world got turned down by the Korean player Jihan, poking fun at Takada from Japan. Takada became even more eager to recruit Jihan. Outside the event room, Jihan commended Seiya for her acting skills. He received a message indicating that Takada had donated 10,000 GP and requested a private meeting with Jihan, promising more donations in the future. Seiya felt irritated and upset by Takada's persistence. Jihan decided to block Takada's account. As Jihan and Seiya stood there, a beautiful lady approached them, surprising them both. Jihan recognized her resemblance to the BattleNet match predictor and realized she might be a fan because of his game prediction skills. Seiya wondered why Jihan seemed so shocked, guessing it was because the lady was very pretty. Then, unexpectedly, Jihan quoted a line from a famous novelist known for his gambling addiction. When the world is filled with possibilities. They were both taken aback by Jihan's words, realizing where it came from. Jihan asked the lady if she liked the quote, but her bodyguard stepped in, curious about Jihan's identity and his knowledge of the lady's motto. To help Jihan out of the situation, Seiya pretended her condition wasn't good, prompting Jihan to say they had to leave. He asked for the lady's business card so he could contact her later. Surprised and rejected, the lady watched as Jihan and Seiya left. Seiya was relieved that she wouldn't have to worry about her uncle's love life. The lady, feeling embarrassed, asked her bodyguard, Gaeong, to laugh at her rejection. Gaeong chuckled loudly in response. After bumping into each other, Seiya saw something strange. Jihan had on her dad's big coat, all baggy on him. He had to borrow clothes from the Sword King to make up for it. Jihan said the coat was really good quality, even if it didn't fit right. Seiya thought so too. Then, Seiya told Jihan he should be more straightforward when turning down the pretty lady. She said playing hard to get was fine, but lying about not having a phone wasn't cool. Seiya pretended to feel sick to help Jihan out, thinking he was just playing along. But she was surprised to find out he really didn't know his phone number. Seiya felt down and quiet after that. Later, Jihan joined a game, feeling tired from trying to cheer up Seiya, who felt bad for messing up her uncle's chance at love and thinking she wasn't smart. She cried about it. Jihan realized Seiya thought he liked the pretty lady, Heian, who loved gambling. In their past lives, Jihan and Heian were good at predicting gambling outcomes and bonded over it after losing their home, Korea. They used to drink and bet together. Heian, also called Zero, was really into gambling. When Jihan guessed right, she was amazed. They even bet on football games, backing the god of football, Diego Maschio, who was top-notch. Jihan told Zero to quit gambling and focus on the game. He was tired of her saying, full of possibilities, it is hard to ignore them every time she lost. He also asked when she'd get rid of the wound on her face, but she said she made a deal with the devil to keep it. She regretted not being strong enough to save her friends in Korea and felt bad about herself. Jihan and Zero both felt guilty for not protecting their loved ones. In the game, Jihan aimed to defend the town and Crystal. Fans in the chat wondered why he was wearing a coat and asked to see his status. They were surprised he had a C-rank sword and wanted to know more. Jihan said he'd show his status if he got 20k subscribers or didn't win first place. Fans were impressed by his confidence. 3 teammates joined Jihan, a famous streamer, a fiery mage he clashed with before, and a football player who used to be SSS rank, Diego Maschio, in their past lives. The streamer was excited to meet Jihan, but the fiery mage was mad because he lost a skill because of Jihan. Jihan was surprised to see the football player there. In the chat, fans talked about the football player being from Argentina. Jihan was confused because he remembered the football player as a mage in their past lives. The fiery mage was furious about seeing Jihan again after their past beef. Suddenly, a fan of the Sword King said they'd give 50k GP to the fiery mage if he smashed the crystal and stopped Jihan from winning. When the game started, the football player kicked the zombie in the face. He controlled the ball that came back from the zombie and asked Jihan to help him get stronger. But Jihan couldn't support him because he didn't have the right skills. So, he had to use his divine power to boost the whole team. Golden Streamer was excited about Jihan's power and buff skill. The mage was surprised why Jihan gave him a buff. Jihan told the mage to play properly this time. Golden Streamer asked the mage what happened between him and Jihan last time. The mage was scared of Jihan because Jihan threw him away last time, making him lose the game. This time, the mage was afraid of Jihan. Then, Jihan jumped down from the tower, surprising everyone. The football player was shocked by Jihan, and the mage already knew Jihan was crazy from last time. The mage was angry at Jihan and planned something bad against him. He got a message telling him to break the crystal and stop Jihan from winning first place. The reward for stopping Jihan was increasing over time. Jihan jumped into the group of zombies and used his fire magic with divine power. His sword swung through the zombies with explosive power, and blue fire burned them. At the tower, the football player and Golden Streamer were shocked by Jihan's power. Golden Streamer live-streamed Jihan's performance. Jihan killed all the zombies near him, making them disappear. More blood zombies attacked Jihan, but he used space-controlling force to restrict and control their movements. They couldn't move at all in his space. Most folks didn't know about Jihan's hidden strength, but he was used to it from his past life. He used to practice with Baron. Facing Baron's attacks over and over helped Jihan learn how to handle force. Now, in the game, Jihan used his divine and fire powers on his sword to slice through zombies, taking out over 100 of them. But he needed to defeat 1,000 zombies to complete the mission. Jihan sped up his movements, attacking all the zombies with incredible power. With one swift move, he wiped out all the remaining zombies. From the tower above, Golden Streamer and the football player watched in disbelief as Jihan unleashed his attack. The viewers cheered Jihan on, hoping he'd reach 200k subscribers and take first place. Meanwhile, the fire mage stayed quiet, planning to destroy the crystal. Golden Streamer noticed and alerted everyone. The fire mage erupted in anger, calling Jihan names and accusing him of terrible things. The viewers were shocked. Jihan remained calm, but his eyes glinted with a dangerous intensity. He was about to do something really bad. The fire mage is being really mean to Jihan and his niece, and he's planning to smash the crystal so Jihan loses his top spot in the game and misses out on a 55k GP reward. Jihan's eyes light up with anger because the fire mage insulted his niece. In a previous life, Jihan couldn't protect his niece because he was too weak, so now he's determined to keep her safe no matter what. He's vowed to punish anyone who hurts or insults her. Even though Jihan's not very powerful yet, he can use something called nameless divine arts. He feels this strong energy building up inside him. As the power from his 3 elixir fields combines, he gets a similar feeling to when he uses the nameless divine arts. He feels charged up, like he's part of a lightning storm. At that moment, on the tower, Sword King Fan gives a weapon to the fire mage and tells him to destroy the crystal because he knows Jihan is on his way. The fire mage shoots fire at Golden Streamer and warns him not to interfere. He threatens to burn down the whole tower if anyone tries to stop him. But Golden Streamer asks the viewers to subscribe to keep him and Jihan safe, and he's ready to fight the fire mage. So the fire mage is using all his power to smash the crystal and says goodbye to everyone. But suddenly, someone blocks his fire magic. Diego, the football player, steps in and blocks the fire magic. He talks to the fire mage, asking why he's trying to wreck the crystal. Diego takes the game seriously and can't stand by when someone's being bad to their team and their families. The fire mage gets really mad that his attack was blocked, and then Jihan suddenly appears behind him, which shocks the mage. Golden Streamer and Diego watches Jihan shows his anger and power, demanding answers about the insults to Jihan's niece. The mage is scared and can't believe how fast Jihan got there. Jihan takes control of the mage and shuts him up. He thinks about killing him quickly, but he changes his mind. Instead, he decides to make the mage suffer more. If Jihan kills the mage, the only consequence will be the mage's level going down. So Jihan doesn't kill him right away. He tortures him more, causing him more pain and suffering. Jihan tortures the fire mage until he can't stand and starts begging for mercy. Golden Streamer and Diego also ask Jihan to stop the torture. Golden Streamer mentions that people usually use BattleNet connectors, which should minimize pain, but Diego points out something unusual and tells the streamer to look closer. Jihan is using a healing spell with one hand, creating a bug-like effect. When a healing skill is applied to a long-lasting damage over time, the effect like poison or burn, the connector gets overloaded, making the person feel 100% of the pain. That's why the fire mage is in such agony. Golden Streamer wonders why Jihan is causing so much pain. Jihan is using a martial arts technique that crushes bones and twists muscles from the inside, sending energy into the opponent's body and destroying it internally. This technique is rare and very painful, even with the best BattleNet connector that usually reduces pain by 95%. The fire mage feels as if his organs are being ripped apart or countless needles are piercing his body. Unable to bear the pain, he begs Jihan to kill him immediately. Suddenly, Jihan decapitates the fire mage. Jihan wonders if the mage will resurrect here. Golden Streamer is terrified of Jihan, and zombies start approaching him. The fire mage reappears, begging for safety, but then suddenly dies from shock and fear of Jihan. Jihan realizes that the mage couldn't handle the pain and fear, and he thinks he should control his strength better. The mage resurrects again, shouting at Jihan to stay away and begging him to stop. Jihan told the mage, "If you weren't ready to face the consequences, you shouldn't have done it." Suddenly, Saya, Jihan's niece, donated 10k GP and asked Jihan to stop, saying she was okay. She warned that if Jihan continued, he would lose viewers and urged him to focus on the game. Jihan realized Saya was calmer than he was, but he still felt it wasn't enough. However, he decided to stop. The fire mage begged for help. JiHan asked who gave him the courage to do these things. The fire mage confessed that the Sword King fan club had asked him to destroy the crystal and stop JiHan from being number one, offering 50k GP for it. The mage apologized for his actions. The Sword King fan club commented on the live stream, vowing to destroy JiHan and his family. JiHan grabbed the mage, thanked Saya for stopping him, and then threw the mage off the tower. Golden Streamer and Diego were happy with JiHan's actions. JiHan thought about continuing to hunt zombies, but the mission time was almost up. When JiHan opened the status window, he was shocked by a notification. It read, "Success. Cleared the chain quest, zombie source." Surprised, JiHan looked outside. All the zombies had been killed by the electricity from his lightning thunder step. The leap had generated so much energy that it eliminated the zombies around him. JiHan realized he had failed to control it properly, causing the remaining energy to explode. Although the result was good, he felt it wasn't perfect because he used his 3 elixir fields instead of the nameless divine arts. He knew he needed more training. Golden Streamer asked JiHan to join him after the game, but JiHan ignored him and thanked Diego for protecting the crystal. He told Diego to meet him next time. Suddenly, an earthquake shook the game. Everyone was shocked as a giant hand monster emerged from the ground, threatening to destroy everything. The ground suddenly split open, revealing a giant hand monster. Everyone was shocked, watching in horror as zombies accompanied the giant monster. The monster's powerful roar sent chills down JiHan's spine. But then the giant hand monster started eating the zombies, producing giant zombies from their remains. This stunned everyone, especially the streamer, who remarked that such a monster should only appear in gold-ranked games, not bronze. JiHan was particularly shocked as he watched the giant hand monster transform the eaten zombies into a flesh golem. This type of monster had never appeared at the bronze level before, making JiHan wonder if this was due to the chain quest. The quest, Zombie's Source 2, defeat the flesh golem without the crystal's help, baffled JiHan. He didn't understand how to defeat the flesh golem without the crystal's aid. Just then, a message appeared. You have cleared the defense map 10 towers. This unlocked a bonus quest. Bonus quest, eliminate the flesh golem. Other team players were equally surprised by the bonus quest, deeming it impossible to kill the flesh golem created by the giant black hand. The crystal usually buffed players' power and strength, which was crucial for such battles. Golden Streamer asked JiHan if it was even possible to clear this quest. JiHan thought about the bonus reward, 10k points and a crystal fragment, realizing the bonus quest was an epic quest. The streamer was depressed about the daunting task ahead. But then JiHan took his sword, and both the football player and streamer looked at him. Viewers started commenting, questioning if JiHan was scared or if he had given up. JiHan, feeling the weight of everyone's expectations, stood firm. He knew he had to face the challenge head-on, not just for the rewards, but to prove himself and protect his team. He turned to the football player and the streamer, determination in his eyes. We're not done yet, JiHan said, gripping his sword tightly. Let's take down that flesh golem. JiHan unleashed his electricity and lightning powers, charging towards the flesh golem. Being undead, the golem was incredibly resilient and could only be killed by destroying the core at its center. However, with its massive body composed of various corpses, this was easier said than done. Even in the gold level, the flesh golem was considered a mid-difficulty boss, making the situation tough for JiHan and his team. JiHan instructed his teammates to move back as he leaped from the tower, his electrified footsteps cracking the ground. Both players were shocked by JiHan's power and agility. With precision and skill, JiHan attacked the flesh golem using a foundational technique of the nameless divine arts. This technique, known as the 3 talents, represented cuts from heaven, earth, and man, signifying vertical, horizontal, and piercing strikes, respectively. Following this, JiHan employed a technique representing the crushing force of Mount Tai, slicing through the flesh golem's entire body. The streamer and football player watched in awe as JiHan's performance unfolded. In his moment of triumph, JiHan delivered the final blow, eliminating the flesh golem with a powerful vertical cut. The viewers were stunned and erupted into cheers for JiHan's incredible feat. Even the streamer, initially filled with fear, despair, and anticipation, found himself overwhelmed with respect for JiHan. He realized that JiHan was more than just a subject for streaming. He was witnessing the birth of a legend. With a sense of determination, the streamer vowed to document JiHan's journey to the peak of greatness, eager to capture every moment of his rise to legend status. As JiHan returned to the tower, the crowd erupted into cheers, marking the beginning of a deep friendship between JiHan and Diego. It was a moment that would be remembered for a long time to come. For the other teams, the situation was dire. They couldn't defeat the flesh golem and giant zombies, and were ultimately destroyed by the giant zombie. The third tower failed the bonus quest, and soon, all towers failed except for JiHan's tower. JiHan and his team emerged victorious, having completed the quest. JiHan received triple the experience points and GP. He then asked Diego to meet outside the game to discuss Diego's abilities. Diego was surprised but eager to know what JiHan had to say. JiHan hinted at something important about mages and suggested that it wasn't safe to talk in-game. Diego agreed to meet outside, intrigued by JiHan's strength and curious about his advice. He was also thinking about his class and wanted to find a suitable role, so he looked forward to discussing this with JiHan. The golden streamer, impressed by JiHan, asked to join him, but JiHan declined. However, the streamer was determined to become JiHan's solid partner and editor. Despite his persistence, JiHan still refused and exited the game, leaving the streamer and Diego behind. At the Sword Palace, JiHan checked his reward message. He had cleared the chain quest, Zombie's Source 2, and earned 10k GP and a crystal fragment. He was pleased with the substantial reward, recognizing the difficulty of the quest. However, upon examining the crystal fragment, he felt disappointed. The fragment granted a single-use divine blessing, something typically used by the Apex support class, the Saints. This blessing was one of the best buffs, increasing all stats by 50%, and was essential in the highest leagues. But for JiHan, he could only use it once and only in bronze or silver leagues, which was underwhelming. On the bright side, finishing first had increased his GP and experience by an additional 50%, which was a significant boost. JiHan exited the game, feeling a mix of satisfaction and disappointment, and looked forward to his upcoming meeting with Diego. They would discuss strategies and abilities, paving the way for even greater achievements in the future. JiHan had reached level 13, with his martial power and force now at 17. He knew there were 12 levels left until he could participate in the silver promotion match. Suddenly, his sword began to react, indicating an increase in divine power by 1. This divine power was integrated into his force, but his stats didn't increase proportionally, revealing that divine power and force were not in a 1-to-1 ratio. Then, his otherworldly relic sword, unable to contain the remaining power, shattered. The explosion of the 3 elixir fields within the sword sent shards flying, and JiHan's shoulder was injured by the fragments. He tried to reabsorb the power, but the entire room lit up intensely. Meanwhile, in another building nearby, Takada, from Japan's Self-Defense Force Agency, was watching JiHan play while eating chicken. Takada had requested the Fire Mage to destroy the crystal and stop JiHan, pretending to be a member of the Sword King fan club. However, stopping JiHan was proving to be much harder than expected. Takada's failure to halt JiHan's progress frustrated him, especially after the Fire Mage failed the quest. Despite his anger, Takada saw Jihan's potential and wanted to recruit him due to his impressive skills. However, Takada's superiors demanded clear evidence before making a move, specifically wanting Jihan's status window to support Takada's claims. Time was running out for Takada, and he realized he needed a more sophisticated strategy. If he could obtain Jihan's status window and get approval from his company, Takada planned to recruit Jihan using their special method known as beauty. Jihan's divine power increased by 1, and it integrated into his force. He was surprised to see his force go up by 1. It took 3 divine power points to increase his force by 1, which also boosted his martial power by 1, bringing it to 18. After absorbing the remaining divine power from the sword shattered. Jihan thought it was a shame, even though the results were impressive overall. Suddenly, a message appeared. Jihan's force was now 18, and from now on, he could only absorb divine power from A-rank items or higher. Jihan found this frustrating since A-rank items were out of his reach for now. At that moment, Seiya entered the room, asking about the 50 million transfer to her account and noticing Jihan's injury and the mess. Jihan explained that his weapon had exploded, but reassured her not to worry. Seiya took Jihan to the living room to treat his wound. Jihan smiled, feeling happy. They then had dinner together. Seiya mentioned the large deposit and suggested that barbecue might be too cheap. She preferred steak. In his past life, Jihan had eaten a lot of steak and missed having barbecue in a casual setting. This was the first proper meal he had since his regression. Jihan thought that eating out occasionally was nice, but he still preferred Korean food. Seiya, however, wanted to eat expensive food like steak. Jihan promised they could have what she wanted next time. She then mentioned her plans to return to the academy, despite being the student council president and needing to relax. Jihan advised her to follow her teacher's advice and rest for a week. Seiya had her reasons. Her day to receive a blessing in the gift hall was approaching. Jihan remembered that her birthday was on August 22nd. In his past life, this day had been difficult for her. Seiya had hoped that receiving a good gift from the academy's gift hall would improve her situation, but she had ended up with an F-rank gift. In his past life, the moment Seiya received an F-ranked gift was when her mentality collapsed. Reflecting on this, Jihan found it difficult to support her plan to return to the academy. He knew if he told her she would get an F-rank gift again, it would break her heart, so he decided to lower her expectations bit by bit. Jihan asked if she planned to go to the academy the next day, and she confirmed she would, as it would be Monday. Jihan decided to drive her there, which surprised Seiya. Seiya initially resisted, saying she wasn't a kid and there was no need to worry. However, Jihan explained that the situation was complex and dangerous due to the Sword King fan club and the media. Seiya, reassured by Jihan's concern, felt happy, and Jihan laughed. The next morning, Jihan and Seiya were surprised to find that all the supercars were gone. Seiya had heard that the Sword King had sold them all, which explained why Jihan couldn't find any keys. Seiya suggested taking the bus, but Jihan spotted a small car in the corner. It was Seiya's mom's car. Jihan got in, found the key, and started the car, which was old and hadn't been used in a long time. The engine struggled, but eventually started. Jihan assured Seiya not to be embarrassed and asked her to get in. Though worried, she complied. At the academy, a big guy confronted Jihan, telling him to move his car. Seiya had feared this kind of reaction. At the Seoul Gangnam-gu Academy, the big guy insulted Jihan, saying he shouldn't park a shitty car there. Jihan got out and told the guy to watch his mouth, asserting his right to park there. The security guard and others recognized Jihan from the bronze level game. They were surprised and took photos, curious why Jihan was at the academy since the Sword King's daughter was on a break. The photos quickly spread online. Meanwhile, at the Twin Star Guild office, Gaeong was playing a game when a beautiful lady, accompanied by her bodyguard, decided to meet Jihan. She was determined to recruit him to her guild, passionate about making him obsessed with joining them.